Well, I believe that the air and water quality is as good or better than it's ever been in my lifetime. And really a great threat to our standard of living and freedom is excessive regulations. So there needs to be a balance. You know, when I read Al Gore's book 20 years ago, Earth in Balance, he indicated 3 areas where there was environmental degradation. All of them were in totalitarian regimes. Indonesia, Soviet Union, Eastern Europe. So there's a balance between private property and responsibility. As far as actual problems, there will be monitoring going on. And if there's a serious problem, I think we'll identify it, take appropriate action, and provide the funds necessary.
Okay, John, this one's going to start with you. This is a longer question. As an Idaho legislator, it is your constitutional duty, and here's a quote from the Constitution, to provide a uniform and thorough system of education to all Idaho children. Unquote. During the recent economic downturn, Idaho cut public school funding by 7.5%. Do you plan to restore education to its pre-downturn funding and raise the level of funding so that the children in Idaho will have a uniform and thorough education system? If not, why not? And specifically, what will you do to ensure a secure funding base that fulfills the constitutional mandate?
Okay. Well, you know, as a libertarian, I'm not a tremendously huge fan of the public school system. I read study after study after study, and we throw the money at the problem, and there's no correlation between the amount of money your state gets and how well your kids do at school. Take, for instance, Utah, lowest spending in the nation, yet they're ranked 20th for SATs. Vermont spends the most money, and their kids are 50th in SATs. Iowa has the best SAT scores, and their funding is dead center, 25th in the nation. So there's no correlation. What we need to provide is parental choice for schools, and we need to reduce the bureaucracy involved with government, focus on paying teachers, not bureaucrats, but the teachers that are in the trenches with the kids, and get government as far out of the public school system as humanly possible.
This is a good question because I just happened to meet with the chairman of the Finance and Revenue Committee today and had a briefing. We're now $13.5 million we've had to take out of the 2011 budget. We don't have a lot of money in this state because we don't have a lot of major industry. How are we going to support education if you don't have the money? You tell me, if you got $1 in your pocket, are you going to go out and spend $1.50? You're going to keep that dollar in your pocket. And what I'm trying to tell you is this: I support public education. I support everything that goes with it. But the problem is we just didn't have the money to do what needed to be done. And when JPAC sat down, they sat down and looked at every department's budget. And they said, are we going to give more to this one and less to this one? No. They worked it out so that they made it as even as they could. And that's what came out to be. So if you want to raise your taxes, don't look to me to do it.
If you're referring to Article 9, Section 1, it states actually that the legislature is to establish and maintain a general system of free common schools. To me, free would actually mean no charge. So I'm kind of confused about that. Article 3, Section 19 states that the legislature shall not pass local or special laws providing for the management of common schools. I guess that can be interpreted however you want. Basically, the education, parental choice, and school accountability are important. Should parents be forced to continually fund a system that continually raises our taxes with no ultimate benefit? Throwing money at a problem doesn't fix the problem. The Bible and the Constitutions indicate that the education of the children was to be at the hands of the parents, not the government. The Constitution also states that our Republican form of government, limited government, depends mainly on the intelligence of the people, as in our Constitution, which means this should be properly educated, not indoctrinated. Although government should establish a means for education, it doesn't mean that they should have control to regulate what is taught, but that the system is in place to provide proper education. Thank you.
and become something and help benefit our economy. Instead of making budget cuts to education, the legislature could have generated more income through taxing online sales, which also hurts our small businesses, and they could have generated more income through hiring more state auditors to collect the money that is owed to the state, and there was some money left in the rainy day fund as well.
First of all, this, our Constitution provides a uniform and thorough system of education to all Iowa children. This is a federal mandate. This was back in 1890, when there were territories out here instead of states. And in order for these territories to become states, they had to have public school. Now, the eastern states, they don't have this federal mandate. It's a state mandate now we're calling it, but it was originally a federal mandate. So this should be taken out of our Constitution, because it's not true. It's the parents that have to be the ones that educate their children and see what kind of education they want. So it's ridiculous. I think that we should get back to school like it used to be before this. The literacy rate was higher before we started public school. Public school didn't start until, I think it was 1853, is that true? 1853. We were not based on public education. Our country is based on home school, on church school, on, let's see, that's
Ensuring that teachers and students in our classrooms have every tool that they need is very important. I'm an educator. I've been a school counselor most of my career working with at-risk students. I want to tell you, compliment the homeschool people. I'm amazed what they can accomplish. I could never do that. My kids go to public school and they've gotten a good education. Folks, the story is there is no money. We held education hold for 2 years. I felt really fortunate the state of Idaho was able to do that when we were cutting other programs and state departments anywhere from 4 to 46%. Education, our kids are lucky. We have Tom Luna leading us, and I feel fortunate that we are where we are. And I think that as we continue to answer questions, that we have to have measurable goals. We have to have more parent involvement back in our schools, and we also need to make sure that we get good quality teachers. Thank you.
I think the question was about how we can improve public education and funding. And I think for much too long we focused on how much money we're spending on education, when actually there's three major components of public education. One component is the financial part. An equally important part is the role of the parents. And the third part is the desire of the student to learn. We've been neglecting those last two. And what I've been trying to do, and if you become acquainted with the MAP bill that we passed the legislature this last year, it actually addresses those last two, the parents and the desire of the student, and incentivizes them to learn quickly. So I think there's some things we can do to improve education, even in this time of declining revenues. Not that we necessarily want to cut budgets, but it seems to be an economic reality.